Welcome to this edition of DIY3DTech.com. This is going to be a two-part episode where in the first episode I'm going to walk you through TinkerCad and making a camera mount. I'm working on a new overhead camera stand, and again, I think it's pretty going to be pretty interesting, but I need a camera mount, so I'm building it out of Schedule 40 PVC. So it's rather sturdy. It's going to be 1/2 inch Schedule 40, and I need a camera mount to attach the camera to it. So I figured I've had some interest in the channel about whipping up things in TinkerCad, and this is actually what I want to show is how quick we can actually whip something up in TinkerCad. So one of the first things I want to do is in the process is I'm going to use a 1/4-20 bolt. So the first thing I do is I need to get a hexagon here for my bolt head. So what we'll do is we'll just pull one up. And one of the things, I've already got the measurements of my bolt head, and what I'm going to be doing is the head is going to be, remember I did a video on this. There's a long side and a short side, and actually the interesting thing is the calculation of this distance versus this distance, you can do that by Pythagorean's theorem, but we're not going to get that geeky because you notice that the short dimension is 17.32 and the long dimension is 20. So long story short, we're just going to drop this down to 12 and this down to, what are we going to do, 13.4, and this is going to give, I'm going to do ABS, and so I've allowed a little bit of room in the ABS for that. And then what we're going to do is then we're going to figure out the head. The head is actually depth-wise about 4 millimeters, so what we're going to do is we're going to come up here and take this out at 4 millimeters. So change this to 4, and now we have our bolt head. Okay, now that we have the head made, what we do is we want to create the shank section of the bolt. So what we're going to do is pull in a cylinder, and the diameter of our bolt, which is a 1/4-20 bolt, is about 6.2 millimeters. So I'm going to make this, I'm going to give it basically 7.4 because I want a little wiggle room. I don't want to have to ream this out. So whoops, 7.4, and it's 80 millimeters tall. So we'll make it 80 millimeters tall, and what we'll do is we'll center it on the head, and the 80 millimeters is from the head to the end of the bolt. And so what we'll do is we'll just drop this on here, and we'll cheat a little bit, and we'll use the align function to bring this together. Alright, so we now have our bolt. We'll group it, and life is good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a hole. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a body for this hole to hollow out, and so I'm going to go, I've already measured it externally, and you'll sort of see why I'm choosing some of these numbers. I do want to make it versatile, so I'm going to go make it a diameter of 32, and then what I do is I want 10 millimeters of the bolt to show proud, so I'm going to make this 70 millimeters tall. And then so what I'm going to do is move this over the bolt structure, and again we're going to use the handy align tool that TinkerCad gives us, and if I click it also, that's now aligned. So I just want to take a quick view. So we see the hex head down there, which will be recessed. We see the bolt sticking out about 10 millimeters proud, and that should be pretty good. So what we're now going to do is we're going to group it, and so it's thinking about it, and so we've now knocked our hole out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to now spin this on its side. Whoops, gotta get a hold of the drag handle, and then what we're going to do is position it on its side. I want to see if I got this. Yep. And then so the other thing that's handy is this is showing 19 millimeters above the bed, so I'm going to drop it right down onto the bed. And then now what we're going to have to do, now this will hold our carriage bolt as it passes through. So now what we're going to need is I'm going to create another assembly separate, then join the two in a moment. So the pipe that I'm using is actually 1/2 inch schedule 40. So the diameter is roughly about 21.8, so I'm going to make it 22. Now that's pretty close to an inch. Now keep in mind the ID, and so you don't get confused on this, the inner diameter is 1/2 inch, but the outer diameter of the pipe is closer to an inch because it is a schedule 40 and it is a thicker pipe. So what I'm going to do is increase the size of this upwards of, say, about 35. Actually, I'm just thinking about this. Yes, I'm going to go 35. 35 diameter wise, and then I'm going to go a height of 32 so it matches my other structure. And so the two, whoops, if I actually spin this around, now these two should be aligned, and I'm just trying to see. Yep, so that's pretty good. I still have a little bit more work that I want to do on this. Now I'm going to spin this down, and now I'm going to need to bring a box into the mix here. So again, we don't have to get too fancy on this one. We just need to match its height. So 32, and then I am going to kick this out to be about 32. Just thinking here, an inch is 25. And I want to give myself about a 1/2 inch, and so right about there, I think. Should be, I think, good. Ooh, good. I'm going to leave it as a square. If I wanted to get fancy, I would curve this off with a circle. Just thinking, well, let's get fancy and curve this off with a circle so you can see how I do that. So if I take a look at this box, I'm 20 wide by 32 tall. So so I need to have a 32 inch diameter here, and 32 here. And then I need to have it lost 20 tall. Here's okay, so I got a 20 tall. So now I need to flip it on its side. So we're going to flip it over, and we're going to hit 90 degrees. Whoops. That's good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and we're going to put it inside of here, and then I'm going to select the red box, and then I'm going to go back up here to my align tool, and whoops, I killed the align tool because I'm -6. I want to hit 0, so I'm right there, and that's pretty close, but I'm going to do a little bit better than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to again select these two pieces. I'm going to select align, and I want to make sure I get it in the center, and I do. And so I'm going to do this and this, and I'm going to group it, and now you can see I have a rounded edge to my box. Now, since I kick this out a little bit further with this, I'm going to move my box in a little bit. I only need about a 1/2 inch or so to do what I need to do. So with this, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull another cylinder in, and I haven't joined these two yet for a reason, and I could probably do it, but it's just easier, at least in my mind, to do it this way. So I'm going to so if a quarter is around 6.5, I'm going to go about 7.4 again to give myself a little bit of room. I'm going to print this in ABS, and so there will be a little bit of shrinkage. And then I want to create a hole out of this, and then we want to make this a little bit taller. And I want to put this on its side at 90, and then I want to put it right through this guy. And again, I'm going to select this other piece, and I'm going to go align, and then I'm going to center it vertically inside the piece, and so that's good. And then I'm going to have to just eyeball it, because I didn't do a lot of real big setup measurements here. Eyeballing it's pretty good. This is where the cinch bolt will go, and then so that piece is in there for the cinch bolt. Now I need some cinch space to go in here, but what I'm going to do first is I'm going to group. Whoops. This is going to be hard. I'm going to individually select these to group them. And okay, so I've now grouped them, and now I'm going to just kind of touch these two. See, I want to make sure I'm not impeding that hole. So that looks good. I'm not. And so I'm going to join these together. So this is now one piece, and then now I need to make an opening for my cinch. So I'm going to make this, what's going to say 5. Oops, I did a bit of a mistake. I need to ungroup this because I need to, and this might be a little bit of a problem now that I've done it this way. So I need 22.1. I need to make my opening to go around the schedule 40 pipe. 22.1, and then I need, whoops, to pull this up. The 49 was covering it, so I want to pull this up, and I'm going to make this a hole. And this is going to be a little bit difficult now to center in this, but I think I can get it close enough for what I want to do. So I'm going to use a line, and then just get it in the center there, and then pull this up and just move it closer to the center. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to now push this down through, and then now what I'm going to do is go back to my cinch block, and I'm going to make this, so let's make it 50, just big enough to make it interesting, and then let's make it 40 to make it interesting again, and then I'm just going to slide this piece in. And I didn't make it quite long enough, so I'm going to go back to the 50, and I'm going to make it 80 just for grins and giggles. Now that's way too long, but it'll work because I want the cinch opening to cross over into the main body a little bit. So I want the cinch to be on both sides. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this in my cinch opening and hit align. Already aligned there, so that looks good. I want to make sure I'm cutting through this, so I'm going to pull it down into the mix. And now one of the tricks, I'm going to explain a little bit of a trick here. So there's a limited number of groups that you can do, and the more times that you do a group with fewer parts, the more compute intense, and I believe they're using the Amazon cloud in the back of this. So what's going to happen is you can potentially run out of groupings, and I've done that on some of the more complicated pieces I've designed. This piece I wouldn't run out of it. However, the more you can put together within a group, the better off you are. So this is why I've joined several different pieces in the group. And actually, if I wasn't walking through it like this, I would have done this in one group. But showing how to do it, it sometimes gets confusing when you have that many pieces that you do in the group. So now here's what it looks like. So we have a cinch that goes through. We have some pretty good surface area on both sides to hold it. we'll stick a 1/4 bolt through here with a wing nut or a thumb screw to cinch down on this, and this will pull. If I wanted to get real fancy, and maybe, let's see, I'm not sure I can get real fancy, is I would create a star and actually put a star in here, and you see I'm a little bit off there. Let's go ahead and ungroup that and just slide this forward a little bit. I'm on one, that's where part of my problem was. There, that looks better. So let's go ahead and regroup that. As you can see, you can just ungroup it and manage it. So anyways, that should again, I have enough affiliate in here and here to hold tight, and the camera is not very heavy. I wouldn't use this for an SLR. However, it'll work for basically I'll be using a Galaxy Android phone hooked to one of my tripod mounts at this end. So long story short, you've now watched me make a coupler. I've created rounded edges on it. There should be enough to do this without supports. Yeah, I should be able to print this whole thing with no supports. And so again, we'll attach the camera mount on this side of it, and this will go on the Schedule 40. This will face forward in this direction, this will face backwards, and this will mount again on the Schedule 40 pipe. So long story short, this really completes the part. We're going to export this to print it, and so in the second video we'll take a look at actually printing this. We'll do this on the DaVinci because I want to do it in ABS. ABS is more springy than PLA, and so we'll watch it print, and then we'll assemble it on the rig, and we'll show you how it all works, and we'll also show you a picture of the rig too. So it's kind of interesting, something I came up with at local Menards over the weekend, trying to get something to elevate the camera over the workbench. So hey, if you found this interesting, if it gave you some pretty good tips, give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. A lot more of this stuff coming out. Also going to be setting up an open SCAD channel here pretty shortly. Got the material, putting it together. I just have to get the time to set it up. So thumbs up, subscribe, and see you in the next video. Cheers.
Click like below and subscribe to the channel to keep up to date on all of our projects.